You're insane. Now what happened?
I had to kill him!
He's dead? Not anymore.
Hey guys, George Mesa, Third Eye Edify podcast. Haven't made a video in about, I guess, a month, but I did release an article that would have easily counted as a full video if I had pressed record instead of simply setting out to type, but it felt like the right thing to do. Something like that, of course, won't be appearing on YouTube, so it was on Patreon, it was on Substack. But just letting you know, in case you've missed me here, wherever you watch a video, if it's not Patreon and Substack, you wouldn't have known about this article, and I thought it was very important. It all had to do with my recent purchase of a baseball glove and a baseball for my nearly 4-year-old son, so I think you should definitely check that out. I think it was a really important thing to discuss. So, recently, I was thinking about doing this episode, and I held off just a little bit to see if it was worth it, but I'm sensing that it definitely was now, because there are, and I'm going to flash them right now, there's 2 episodes I released over the past, I can't believe it, one of them is almost 2 years old, but this particular episode, Manifesting Manifestos, episode 69, and this one, which is almost 2 years ago, and I simply can't believe it, Episode 46, Resurrecting Lonely Hearts. Now, on the Manifesting Manifestos side, it had to do with, unfortunately, public assassination. Public, well, hanging, whatever you want to call it, execution. And in that episode, I made a few predictions, and I think they're starting to see the light of day, and it's very frustrating and unfortunate. But I am mentioning that I mentioned several things that seem to be occurring right now. I'm recording this September 15th, 2025. I just missed the usual date of 9/11, September 11th. I have done many episodes right around or on that day that relate to that event, the one and only event. And this time around, an event that I'm not even going to say the name of what happened the day before, and it seemed to have triggered a lot of things. So, unfortunately, it seems to be triggering things I predicted may be happening in that episode. So definitely go back and check it out and see what I'm talking about, because I don't even want to mention it in this one. And then, in the Resurrecting Lonely Hearts, the thing that mainly got me into it almost right away is that they used the magic of AI to resurrect John Lennon's voice in a very hazy, hard-to-hear track that he had done an unreleased song. They brought his voice to fruition with, again, the magic of AI, and then they had the remaining members of the band record over it to make a, in quotes and not in quotes, very real, brand new Beatles track, posthumous release, a resurrecting of sorts. And around that time, I had also mentioned that devices like Alexa and, things along the lines of ChatGPT, Midjourney, any AI you can mention, were being used to simulate a companion, a partner, someone to speak to, someone to bounce ideas off of. And in that episode, I mentioned that there was something called Dr. Spatzo a long time ago, where you could talk to this computer. I'm having a bad day. How are you doing? I'm doing fine. Thank you. Hope things get better soon. And then you could say this. And he would say it in his very bad pronunciation type of way. And the very old stuff, 30 years old, maybe older. But it's getting serious, where I posed the question, is there an epidemic of loneliness? And I assume that there is, because people seem to have a real genuine need for a computer companion at all times. That computer being, look at that, a cellular telephone. And it is a computer, of course. It's a computer you can't turn off anymore. Batteries used to be removable. They are not anymore. But what I'm here now to update almost and come back, much like that other episode I mentioned, I had said stuff in episode 46, which is now really starting to come hardcore to the light. And it is primarily something that I couldn't help but notice that Elon Musk himself was mentioning, that you can use Grok, Grok, in case you're not sure. This is, of course, X, Twitter, whatever, Twitter's AI. And it seems like everyone runs to it nowadays when there's any questions posed, rather than a professional or expert or an encyclopedia or anything. Grok, is this true? And it's becoming pretty crazy. But Elon Musk himself said, hey, use Grok. Give me a picture of your deceased grandmother, and Grok will do the rest. We will bring her back for you in a video. Resurrection of sorts. Playing God. As we saw in the very, very quick clip from the movie Reanimator from 1985, it never goes well. Chances are good it's a bad idea, and it's not funny. I don't want to laugh about this. Okay, this isn't exactly a comedy to me, but what is, unfortunately, something that simply has to be laughed at this point is that no one seems to think ahead. Movies do teach lessons, stories, books, parents. The lessons are clear. Don't play God. You are not. This here is an image, not an AI-generated image, apparently. This is an image of a boy and his mom. This person had his 15 minutes of fame by posting that he created an AI image with Midjourney, an AI company that I mentioned a long time ago when I had the amazing Mario Garza from Symbolic Studies on. And we discussed an AI image that went, viral for weird reasons. And I quickly mentioned at that time in my show notes I had that Midjourney's founder, David Holtz, is ex-NASA. What a surprise. And I'll have a quick little NASA tidbit to throw in a minute. But he used the photo, he gave it to Midjourney, and then it created a video of his mom fully embracing him, and he could physically see it, smiles, all this stuff. I'm not going to show it. And, 30 million views, whatever it is. I don't care about any of that stuff, but she's putting it out there saying, I watched it 50 times. I have never had a video of me and my mom. Now, just like with the Neuralink and other devices, and hey, here's looking at you again, Elon. Yeah, if someone can't use their hands and the Neuralink can allow their brain to finally activate their hands again, is this bad? How could it be bad? I can't possibly come up with a reason to tell you that that particular thing is bad. But these are all Trojan horses that get you all in, and then the obvious stuff follows. I'm reminded of Minority Report with pre-crime, and there were 3 psychics used to discover whether or not a crime was going to happen. And I think that the reason there was 3, maybe it was if they all have the same image. And then sometimes some of them get thrown away. This is the Minority Report, right? And and the person who runs it was using it to hide his own murder. Of course, what a surprise, right? So, I might go back and watch that. I'm curious if it's still holding up well. I feel like it was. I feel like it is. So, I had been, again, thinking about this, just saying, okay, the usual, we're going to have an everything app. We've got AI trying to do stuff for us in every possible capacity, but now it's resurrecting people. And it's creating cyber confusion, false memories, so to speak. There are now cyber psychologists. This is a new thing, cyber psychology. And I think that's a very valid thing. I'm not downing that at all. That seems to be a genuine need for that, especially with the youth, because they get sucked in so easily, especially if mom and dad are constantly doing it. Then be like, well, I guess I should also be constantly doing this. And then they grow up not realizing how detrimental it is if you didn't have the life before that. They don't have pre-cyber life like somebody like myself did at slightly over 40, which is nearly 45. This is a good time to mention that cultures have always used whatever they could to remember the dead. Until before photos, however early that may be, there was, trinkets, anything they could, clothing, an instrument, a tool of the trade that they used to use, whatever it happens to be. And in memorandum, a way to keep the dead alive for yourself, for your memories. That is the healthy approach. That is the way it has always been. Keep their spirit alive, and they'll never be truly dead. Something along those lines. But you weren't digging around in a graveyard looking to resurrect them. And I'm not saying that's what this is, but it's just one more level of the digital world saying we can make things better for you. And they are playing God. And they're letting you know that it's okay to disregard any of the things that may. Don't worry about it. What could possibly go wrong, right? What could possibly go wrong? There's a term now that I was very much interested in mentioning, and if I don't see it, I'll find it for sure. But I want to mention that in this Time article that I was flashing, I want to just make sure you do indeed go check it out. It's from June. And usually, I did an entire episode on Time Magazine, an entire long episode. So please do go back and watch that time and time and time and time again. I do believe it is worth watching. Even now, that episode's got to be 3 years old now. So I am not a fan of Time. It started with a very nefarious beginning. Things like it are, in my opinion, doing their best to completely alter reality in every single way possible, and this is no different. But I found that the article did say certain things that are good, in regards to what it was trying to say, and digital resurrection is the phrase I was looking for. I'll get back to that. So, and much like it said in the title, there is a cyber psychologist quoted in this article named Elaine Kasket. 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 How often does it have to be this way? Isn't this a coincidence that we're discussing death and resurrection, and this woman's last name is Kasket? Maybe it's pronounced Kaskay or something, right? So she quoted, actual quote, "The dead have never been this talkative before." I kind of disagree. I think the dead have been chatting quite a lot. And now coming to a very abrupt realization that indeed graveyards themselves may just be jails for the spirits, and they're never able to truly move on, as opposed to something like cremation, which is much more ancient. I think the dead are very talkative, and I think they're very restless, as a matter of fact, and it's a shame, because if indeed they are able to witness the behaviors of the average individual at this point, the average, let's just say, sheep, whatever, I have a feeling they're not super happy about a lot of things. And I think that digital life is one of those things, by the way. Wasn't even part of my plan in this episode, but think about that. So AI is, I quote from the article here, a perfect false memory machine. I couldn't possibly disagree with anything that says anything like that. That sounds like a spot on to me, 100%. I completely agree. They questioned Julia Shaw, a criminal psychologist, specializes in false memories, by the way. She's positive. First of all, in the article, this woman Julia Shaw says that she likes AI to reanimate people. She thinks it's positive. But she thinks it poses the risk of contaminating and overwriting our memories. Now, I, once again, had an episode maybe about 3 years ago where I very, very distinctly discussed the Neuralink. And I discussed how there's even, award-winning scientists who think that our brain is very bad at what it does because it memorizes things in 2 different ways, for example, and that it's a big mess and nothing's going to work. The reason it doesn't work is because they're trying to analyze it as a computer. And computers are caveman-like, to use a quote that I don't necessarily vibe with the whole idea of how old we are and our previous ancestors, but there is a very primitive behavior that governs all computers. They're very, very, very simple and require a lot of actions, usually for one simple thing. So a lot of yes and no's, essentially. Binary, right? So I found that there's been a humongous push in the past, let's say, 100 years to use computer terminology to describe us. And this is no different. Overwriting our memories, contaminating bugs, creating bugs, essentially. So think about that when I mentioned this other quote from that same Julia Shaw, the criminal psychologist. Human memory is not a personal library of all things that have ever happened to you. Now, in my personal opinion, and I meant to have one here, I have my tuning forks, and I have thankfully been able to do aura tunings inside of a salt cave, which is not far from here, and I've been having some very profound experiences. I haven't necessarily done any remote tunings yet, but I am starting to get a much more regular cycle of tuning. I've had the forks for 5 years since I heard Eileen McCusick on Crow. Who knows how long ago? And shout out to Chance Garton, Interverse. I think we bought ours at almost exactly the same time because I was on his show right around that time. He saw that I had her book. He used the fork at the beginning of the episode, as a matter of fact. Just kind of played it into the microphone. Very cool. And I'm mentioning this because it seems like a very, very, very real and undeniable fact that we store memories in our biofield, in our aura. Could be here, could be right here, could be down low here by the hips. It surrounds you, you walk with it. It is all over you. It's not just inside of you or in your brain, so to speak. If you want to tell me there's an image that I can see if I were to open my brain up, that's not how it works. It's far more complex and interesting than that. And as with most things, it's probably actually very simple. We just have been pushed away from the arc of gaining the knowledge to finally understand ourselves. And this is part of that. By saying that we are not a personal library of all the things that have ever happened to you, that statement is already dismissing the idea that we can store that much information. We can. And in my opinion, think about it this way. Actually, not in my opinion. Think about it this way. When you easily remember something that you haven't thought of in decades, that right there is the proof to me. Where a smell or an image or a sound or the beginning of a song or a scene from a movie you haven't seen, when that triggers an old memory that you were sure it wasn't there, not only because you hadn't thought of it, but because you didn't need it. Did it disappear? No, I don't think so. I think it is all stored very nicely, very easily in our aura, in our soul. And knowing that we carry trauma from parents, grandparents, we don't just store our own. And I think a comment like this is just more of the attack against this very real aura that we have, which was clearly denoted in science, whatever you want to call it, up until you know when. Flexner Report, 1910-ish, Rockefeller medicine, that's when it all went away. And that's when the hiding and the sweeping under the rug of real human technology was starting to get pushed as hard as possible. And what does that relate to? Oh, yes, indeed. It relates to my book, World War U, which is indeed available right where you would expect it to be. And I do indeed have a merch store, by the way, in case you wanted to flash some of my stuff and get a conversation going. I have a Teespring shop for all that. So it's all on the website, by the way, as always. So again, human memory is not a personal library of all things that have ever happened to you. You know what? I don't buy it. And I think it's very dismissive of the reality that we are incredible pieces of technology, if you want to use that computer term, and I don't. But I'm just making it relatable here. Something else that came up in this article that I thought was worth mentioning, Photoshop can affect what people remember about the past. And this is according to several memory experts, apparently. Photoshopping things. Handing a photo off to Midjourney and having it make a video of you and your deceased loved one can affect and actually change your memory of the past. I think this relates to in a movie when somebody uses a time machine, goes in the past, don't touch anything, or everything will change, right? This is touching the past. You're messing with it, and it could very easily ruin far more than just your memory itself. Photoshop can affect your memory? Is that a moon landing comment? Maybe. There's some photoshopping going on there. And of course, AI makes photoshopping easier because you can just set up a command to do something instead of you having the skill to know how to do it or having a friend you can pay to do it because skills should have payment. You can just pay for AI. Just pay for this. It's a subscription. Of course, it's nothing you buy. It's a subscription, as always now. Subscription life. Hashtag subscription life. And I really do feel very strongly about this, and I think that it's a very nice sentiment. I'd rather have a slide of a number of photos from the person's life play than a computer created video that did not exist prior, created by a photo, where let me put it this way, and I'm just the way that I think about it, right? Let's say that you're both facing each other and then the camera is catching both of the sides of your faces in this photo. This is my argument here, right? Now you may say, make me a video. And now it has to generate, based on what it can see, the rest of your face. You do not get a 3D view of your face in any photo. It's not happening. Sure, you can set up a bunch of mirrors and take that perfect picture, I guess. But look, the AI has to make your face now and do its best to move that face without looking weird and wonky and without distorting it. The angle of the nose, the eyebrows, the eyelids, the mouth, the teeth, the tongue, the size and opening and the type of mouth that you get. I don't talk like this normally, but the AI might do it. It doesn't know any better. This is my point. That is going to totally change your actual memory. And you'll get something more of the dream level look of things, right? So I really do, again, feel very strongly about this. It's an altering. It's made by, and hopefully this is the strongest argument, it's made by a robot. Do we want that? If someone could, say, animate and draw from scratch based on several or many photos. Here are 30 pictures of my old grandma who passed away. Can you gain a perspective of what she looks like and animate something for me, hand drawn? Now there's a human being involved. There's work coming their way instead of it being completely stripped of them by computers. And it's made almost definitely with love and good intentions, with the want to help you get what you wanted as let's just say you're a client talking to an artist You can hire an artist to do this for you. You don't have to have Mid-Journey, ex-NASA do it for you. And completely keep going with helping things like Google and corporations do everything they can to make sure you use them instead of real people. It's easy to make predictions, especially nowadays, but they often find their reality in different forms than you may expect. I didn't expect this to be the next thing that I was going to be doing actually for the show, but I feel very strongly about this. And I'm not trying to guide anyone, as I always say. I'm not trying to guide you into any direction, but you may not know this was a thing. And I think it's good to know that Twitter really is becoming the everything app, as they promised, knowing that Elon was part of the creation of PayPal, which is kind of the first digital wallet. Might have been really, really, really close to the first. And guess what it was called before that? X. Are you surprised? I have a whole episode on it. I've been saying that a lot in my life for the past few years. I got a whole episode on it. And just think about that. The everything app will be, it'll be your medical passport. It'll be your payment system. It'll be your news. It'll be your community dashboard. It'll be your connection to the world. It'll be your reanimator. The best thing we can do is not use it or pay attention whatsoever. Just let it hopefully fizzle away into the ossuary of history, right? So I hope that this conversation was edifying in a certain way. No pun intended. Plenty of puns intended, I should say. And if you are new to the show, please do the usual. Find me somewhere other than YouTube if you are on YouTube. I'm going to have all my episodes on the website very, very, very soon. And for now, the best thing you can do, whether you love these platforms or not, my focus will be Substack and Patreon. And for those of you that are actually providing me something of a, let's just call it a subscription or payments, if you're actually helping sponsor this show, there's only a very small amount of you, but I am beyond thankful every single day. Thank you so much. So find me there. It's the best I can do for now. And I will have the website full force with subscription and everything very soon. And I am still, and always will be, primarily a bass guitar instructor. I have a bass university YouTube page. I do private lessons. I have a bass university that meets weekly. And I am also a tuner, a Soul Aura tuner. And I can offer those services as well if you're interested. Just contact me. My contact information is always going to be in the show notes, of course. So thank you. And if you know someone who has no idea who I am that would benefit from hearing this conversation, please send this their way in any form that you can. And as always, I'll see you next time. Thank you.